2 days in Cartagena. Hi, I'm Lori, a senior solo traveler, and I recently spent 2 days in Cartagena. The city had been on my bucket list, so I was excited when I arrived by way of a Windstar cruise. Frankly, after spending a week on the cruise ship, going from port to port, I was looking forward to spending 2 full days in the city. My exploration began with a group tour, but I used the rest of my 2 days to freely wander the city. Now, Cartagena has had a reputation of being a dangerous place, and for years it was. But the city has been revitalized, and I felt very safe wandering around. I'll take you through my 2 days, and at the end of the video, share some advice for anyone planning a visit. I started my first day with a group tour of Getsemani and the Historic Center, which was a good way to begin my exploration. It gave me a good overview of the historic area. Our first stop was the fortress wall, where you could see the San Felipe Fort from a distance. We then walked through some colorful streets with beautifully renovated buildings. I love some of the decor strung between the buildings. Next, we drove to the Barracks of Bovedas, which were once jail cells but have now been converted to colorful handicraft stores and galleries. The construction here consists of 47 arches and 23 vaults and is considered the last work of the period of the colony. There wasn't much to do here except shop. The stores were full of souvenirs, clothing, paintings, jewelry, and sculptures. It was fun to look at some of the craft work. Outside, there was a woman dressed in traditional clothing. If you paid $1, you could get your picture taken with her. Our next stop was another part of the fortress wall. From here, you could see the old cannons and the modern skyline in the distance. From there, we walked to Bolivar Park, where we were given time to wander the streets. This was a bustling area with numerous shops and restaurants up and down the streets. Close by was the Cartagena Cathedral, which is a major landmark in the area. It is striking both inside and out. The tour ended here and we were taken back to the cruise port. However, since this was the only overnight stay in a cruise port, I was committed to experiencing some nightlife. I made dinner reservations for me and 2 other solo travelers for Monte Sacro Resto Bar, which overlooked Bolivar Park. At 6 p.m., we took an Uber to the restaurant. It had been quite hot all day, so it was nice that the temperature had cooled off dramatically. Consequently, we sat outside on the balcony overlooking the park and enjoying wonderful local food. A couple musicians started playing at 7 p.m., which added to the enjoyment. After dinner, we went downstairs and I negotiated a horse carriage ride. The driver showed me a price list and wanted us to pay $90, but I said $50 for all 3 of us and he agreed. He drove us all over the walled city, and we discovered some cool areas we hadn't seen previously, including San Diego, which was in a university area and had a real lively scene. Although the carriage ride was a somewhat touristy thing to do, I would highly recommend it. It was great fun, and we were able to see so much more of the old city than we had during the day. It was also fun to see the city come alive during the evening hours. Here are some more images from the carriage. After being dropped off, we went to an area with some musicians and dancers. They were fabulous. I loved their unbridled joy in dancing. We then walked through the marketplace, which was bustling, and then out onto the Plaza de los Coches, which was now lit up beautifully. On my second day in Cartagena, I set out on my own. First, I took an Uber to the Convent of Santa Cruz de la Popa, which had a $5 entrance fee. It is a convent, a cloister, and a chapel located at the top of Mount La Popa. I hesitated on going because I hadn't heard much about it except that the views were nice. And yes, the views were spectacular, 360 degrees at a very high perch. But what I really enjoyed was the building. It was gorgeous. There was a garden surrounded by a cloister that was so charming. I just didn't expect it when I was walking into the building. There were rooms jutting off from the corridors that contained various artifacts, treasures, and artwork. I was happily surprised to find so many interesting displays. There are several terraces where you can step out and take advantage of the stunning views. I particularly liked this side where you can see the lake and islands. The views allowed you to see how vast Cartagena is and how small the old historical area is comparatively. Next, I took an Uber to the San Felipe de Barajas Fort. The driver dropped me off at the base where there was a ticket booth. Colombians could enter for free, but tourists had to pay around $7 to enter. The fort was impressive looking up from the bottom, such a mass of intricate stonework. There was an inclined ramp that zigzagged to the top. It wasn't that difficult to climb, but since it was so hot out, I was certainly glad when I reached the top and could seek some shade. The fort had several terraces, alcoves, tunnels, and stairs, each one offering a different viewpoint. At the top were some of the cannons used for fortification. I thought these catacomb-like tunnels were especially intriguing. The heat didn't make you want to linger, so I made a quick retreat, hailed another Uber, and made my way to San Diego Plaza in the historic area of the city. This is the area I had seen the previous night from the horse carriage, so I thought I would check it out. During the night, it seemed very lively and a hub of activity, but during the day, it was pretty much empty, so I didn't stay. However, my trip there landed me in a new neighborhood, and I discovered some very pretty streets. I love this building, which is evidently a restaurant. I then began walking up and down the streets, returning to some areas I had seen the day before, but also discovering some new streets. I eventually found my way to the water. I walked a short distance to some fun sculptures and then hailed an Uber back to the cruise port. Now, here's a little information for anyone planning a trip. First, let's talk transportation. There are taxis everywhere, and they are always trying to get your business. I had many drivers approach me offering to take me somewhere for $10 or $20, but I knew to turn them down because the Uber would get me there for 3 or 4. Not only was it less expensive, I didn't have to exchange cash or negotiate a fee. I would highly recommend it over the taxis. The Ubers were so inexpensive, I didn't even look into the buses. For solo travelers, as I said previously, I felt safe walking the streets, which was mainly in the Getsemani and the historic area. Of course, as in any big city, you need to take precautions. Also, know that in Cartagena there are many street vendors and hustlers that are all trying to make a buck, and some of them can be a little aggressive. I was most intrigued by these rappers that approach you as you walk the street. They pretty much get in your face, and if you show interest, they expect to get paid for their performance. On the carriage ride, we actually had a couple follow us for quite some time and eventually hop onto the side. I thought it was kind of amusing, but I'm sure others might find it annoying. For senior travelers, the areas I traveled were mostly flat, so didn't require much stamina to get around. The only exceptions were the fortress walls, which had a few stairs, and the San Felipe Fort, which did require some strength to hike to the top. So that's it. All in all, it was a fabulous 2 days and met my high expectations. Cartagena is huge, and of course, I only visited a fraction of the city. However, I felt like I was able to see the highlights and get a taste of the Colombian culture. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments section. I have posted numerous videos from this Caribbean and Panama Canal trip and have left links in the description below. And check out the Senior Solo Travel website and Facebook forum where you can interact with other travelers. And if you'd like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Next stop, Bocas de Toro.